Heya, cryptozens. Tonight's stories: UAE Frontruns Biden's XO, and Biden issues crypto executive order. It's 10 p.m. Pacific, and the date is March 9th, 2022. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. I'm your host, Nick. The cover model for this podcast is Tex, and together we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. We bring you news stories on familiar topics. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. If you're new here and you find that you like this show, subscribe and rate us. If you're on Spotify, you can rate us right from the app. So, give Tex and I 5 stars. It'll help other people find their way to this podcast. Now, this is going to be a bit of a longer one, so buckle up and settle in. The markets are looking pretty good right now, right? At least better than it's been for a while. You've got Luna claiming a new all-time high in the middle of this mess. Disclosure, I do hold some Luna. But there are other coins surging too. So it's great, right? Well, maybe. I guess it depends on if it lasts. The Bitcoin bumped up 8% at one point, but I'm not counting on it. At least not until it holds. Now, if it holds 43K for a while, preferably 46, until then it just kind of feels like the same old chop. So what is up with the markets? Was it Biden's announcement? Institutional investors have been weighing in on this one for a while. They've been wanting some rules so they know what they're doing. Retail is far more likely to YOLO in on a largely unregulated market, much more so than their institutional counterparts. So we're going to take a bit of a look, not just at what's in the XO, but some of the post-announcement reactions. Maybe it's UAE's announcement. Is there any meat to this? Or is it one of those go form a commission and come back kind of things? You know, where they form a commission or a committee or exploratory group where everything just kind of churns forever and they really don't release any results. The NFT market is off a bit. Are people selling off their NFTs to buy the dip? I don't know. Now, before we do get into tonight's stories, let's take a quick look at the markets. At the time of writing, the global crypto market cap is $1.84 trillion. That's up 5.99% in 24. The top 5 cryptos by market cap are Bitcoin up 8.21%, Ethereum up 5.72%, Tether, Binance Coin, which is down 2.85%, and USDC. The global NFT market cap is just above 10.06 billion. That's down 5.9%. The top 5 collections by 24-hour volume on OpenSea are Cyberbrokers down 35%, Bored Apes down 61%, CloneX down 14%, Mutant Apes down 23%, and CryptoPunks up 269%. Now keep in mind, some of these collections have very volatile prices, so do your own research. UAE frontruns Biden's XO. Everybody knew Biden was making an announcement on crypto soon. I literally talked about it in my open on last night's show. Go back and listen to it. And it ended up being a lot like what I expected it would be. And if I knew it was coming, so do the actual big players like nation states. So that begs the question, did the UAE knowingly front-run Biden's executive order? Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum is the Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates. He issued the Dubai Virtual Asset Regulation Law. Now, in part, this law is aimed at advancing a legal framework to protect investors. Additionally, it aims to design much-needed international standards for virtual asset industry governance. This governance would be responsible for growing businesses and issuing reasonable regulations. He said, quote, "Today we are participating in designing the future of virtual assets globally." And when he says this, it really does underscore that Dubai has everything it needs to be a big player, even bigger than it already is, when it comes to the field of virtual assets. He added, Dubai will provide the most advanced virtual asset ecosystem in terms of organization, governance, and security. Approving the virtual asset law and establishing the Dubai Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority is a vital step that establishes the UAE's position in the sector, a step that aims to help the sector grow and protect investors. Okay, that was all him. So this means that the Dubai Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority is going to be in charge of licensing and regulating crypto across the Dubai mainland as well as the free zone territories. The exception being the Dubai International Financial Center. Now, establishing this regulatory authority, that is just part of the plan from the Dubai Securities and Exchange Higher Committee. The Director General of Dubai World Trade Center Authority said that this new law will attract crypto and related virtual asset leaders from all over the world. He added that the Dubai Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority will provide a full range of virtual asset services in coordination with the Central Bank of the UAE and the Securities and Commodities Authority. So it looks like this regulatory authority is going to end up the central authority for this whole thing. They're going to be the ones who determine how to regulate and how to supervise the space. It also says that they are responsible for setting the administrative rules and things like that to cover crypto activities. Now, this includes rules on management services, clearing and settling services, and that's in addition to classifying digital assets. So, here's the list of the activities that the authority will regulate. Operating and managing virtual assets platform services, exchange services between virtual assets and currencies, whether national or foreign, exchange services between one or more forms of virtual assets, virtual asset transfer services, virtual asset custody and management services, services related to the virtual asset portfolio, and services related to the offering and trading of virtual tokens. Now, if you get caught engaging in any of these kinds of activities without the appropriate licenses, you're going to catch a fine. And you might actually find yourself suspended for up to 6 months. Biden issues crypto executive order. And like I said, we all knew this was coming. I'm only half joking about the UAE front-running the president. I literally talked about it just last night. The market knew it was coming, and that is why Bitcoin hit $42,000 before the executive order was officially announced. And there was a leaked document that read, quote, President Biden's historic executive order calls for a coordinated and comprehensive approach to digital asset policy. This approach will support reasonable innovation that could result in substantial benefits for the nation, consumers, and businesses. Okay, so that is what sent Bitcoin from 39,000 to just short of 42,000. Now, I looked a few seconds ago, it was at 41.8. So it seems like that price is going to stick for a bit. Some people who aren't happy? Well, those who lost an estimated $190 million in liquidated short positions. And that's in just the last 24 hours. And now that it's out, let's take a look. Spoiler alert, it does not lay out specific positions the government wants to adopt. Not only that, they didn't offer any new regulations for companies to be following. One of the things that they did do was they talked about the need for increased consumer protection. They pointed at volatility as an issue. At the beginning of this COVID-19 mess, Bitcoin was at 10,300. Since that time, it's bounced to almost 70,000 in November, and then it crashed. At one point, just a couple of months later, Bitcoin bottomed out around 32,000. That is some volatility. That's a case in point, right? Just the rumor that the executive order was coming out was enough to cause the Bitcoin to surge almost 8%. And that was Tuesday. That was when that leaked document got published from the Treasury Department. So a big part of this has to be understanding all the technology that powers crypto. So embarrassing for Canada to subpoena a non-custodial wallet provider and demand consumer information like they did. It just shows that they don't understand the things that they are trying to control. As one administration official put it, quote, "The president has put forward a holistic, whole-of-government approach to understanding not only the macroeconomic risks, but also the microeconomic, with the risk to each individual, investor, and business that engages with these assets." And they continued, "It recognizes that our assessment of the risks and potential benefits of digital assets must include an understanding of how our financial system does and does not meet the current needs of consumers in a manner that is equitable, inclusive, and efficient." And that kind of leads me to the part where it directed Treasury to draft a report on the future of money and payment systems. So that would be part of it, right? This report is supposed to take a look at crypto's impact on economic and financial growth. They want to examine issues like financial inclusion, national security, and, quote, "the extent to which technological innovation may influence that future." In a statement published Tuesday, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said, quote, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said, quote, "Already the department has worked with the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, the FDIC, and the OCC to study one particular kind of digital asset, stablecoins, and to make recommendations. Under the executive order, Treasury and intra-agency partners will build upon the recently published national risk assessments, which identify key illicit financing risks associated with digital assets." Now, remember the President's Working Group last November? They wanted Congress to pass a more clearly defining law that showed the federal bankers' regulations oversight authority over stablecoins. That said, they have the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which can handle that. So we talked about stablecoins, but what about a digital dollar, a central bank digital currency? The executive order directs agencies to take a look at how the U.S. could go about issuing one. And they use some ominous words in quotes here. Should issuance be deemed in the national interest? Remember, recently we talked about the Fed and that Powell was reluctant to start working on a digital dollar without some sort of governmental backup, something from legislative or somebody. This is that backup because this order ties into the Federal Reserve's ongoing efforts to study digital dollar issuance. Now, according to that administration official, more than 100 countries have or are investigating CDBCs. They said, quote, "Many of these countries are also working together to set standards for CDBC design and cross-border systems, with implications for domestic and international priorities, including the centrality of the U.S. dollar in the global financial system. The executive order will help make sure we have a leadership role and a seat at the table." Now, I'm going to wrap this section up with a look at the national security angle. Justice and FBI both have their own crypto crime units. The administrative official said, "The insufficiency of international implementation with anti-money laundering networks and frameworks with digital assets is the greatest vulnerability of those ecosystems that criminals are currently exploiting." Now, part of this is because that's pretty antithetical to the way crypto's set up. Frankly, it was specifically set up to be that way, to limit identification and to be more decentralized. Now, of course, this is only a start to their process. The official said, quote, "We remain committed to working with allies in the broader digital asset community to help shape the future of digital asset systems in a manner that's inclusive, consistent with our democratic values, and safeguard the integrity of the global financial system." So, reactions? Jeremy Allaire is the CEO and co-founder of Circle. He said this is a watershed moment for crypto. National Economic Council Director Brian Deese and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan were pretty bullish on this. They said, "The approach outlined in the executive order will reinforce U.S. leadership in the global financial system and safeguard the long-term efficacy of critical national security tools like sanctions and anti-money laundering frameworks. The Crypto Council for Innovation is a group of crypto companies. They originally formed in April 2021. Membership includes major exchanges like Coinbase and Gemini. So they're industry guys. They called it holistic and informed. They said it would likely lead to greater regulatory clarity. So I'm going to close this out with a hopeful, bullish quote by them. We look forward to working in partnership with regulators and policymakers in the coming months to develop smart policies that bolster America's position as a global leader of crypto innovation. Collaboration is crucial. So that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I do really appreciate it. So let me ask you this. What do you think? Are Yellen and company going to push a CBDC? How long until we start seeing some real guidelines? I know people involved in DeFi are kind of on pins and needles waiting this thing out. Same for stablecoin producers. So let me know what you think. Send me an email at crypto.overnighter@gmail.com. That's crypto.overnighter@gmail.com. And give Crypto in 5 Minutes a listen. We've got 31 educational podcasts and counting. 5 minutes to explain one concept in crypto. And forever, may peace